Hi friends, today I am going to discuss direct tax in that TDS chapter. Okay friends, let's move on into the chapter. See, there is always a time gap between deriving of income and payment of tax thereon. The objective of the provision of tax deduction at source is to avoid this time gap. Okay, the objective of the provision of TDS objective is to avoid this time gap in collection and also to ensure regular flow of tax revenue to the government. And see, the payer being the person who is deducting tax at source is responsible for interest, penalty and prosecution in respect to defaults committed. Okay, and see the section 190 deduction at source and advance payment. And see, notwithstanding that the regular assessment in respect of any income is to be made in later assessment year, the tax on such income shall be payable by deduction or collection or advance payment or payment under section 192 1A, as the case may be in accordance with the provisions of this chapter. And see the next one. Nothing in this section shall prejudice the charge of tax on such income under the provisions of section 4 subsection 1. Okay, and see the section 191 direct payment. In this, income in respect of which provision is not made under this chapter for deducting income tax at the time of payment, and in case where income tax has not been deducted in accordance with the provision of this chapter, income tax shall be payable by the assessor direct. Okay, no provision under section 17 and non deduction. Okay, and see, explanation for section 191. For the removal of doubts, it is hereby declared that if any person, including the principal officer of a company, who is required to deduct any sum in accordance with the provisions of this act or referred to in a subsection 1A of section 192, being an employer, does not deduct or after so deducting fail to pay, does not deduct after so deducting fail to pay. And the next, does not pay the whole or any part of the tax as required by or under this act, and where the assessee has also failed to pay such a tax directly, then such a person shall, without prejudice to any other consequences which he may incur, be deemed to be an assessee in default. Assessee in default within the meaning of subsection 190, subsection 201 subsection 1. Assessee in default within the meaning of section 201 subsection 1 in respect of such a tax. Okay, and see, different rates of TDS are provided under respective sections for various payments made. Only in the case of salary payment, the employer shall apply the income tax rates applicable for individual assessees. Okay, and see the section 192. Payment salary. As per section 192, payment salary. Threshold limit, basic exemption limit. That is 2 lakh 50 or 3 lakh as the case may be. Okay. Payer, that means employer, payer, any person, payee, individual. Okay, and see, payer responsibilities: deduct TDS, deduct tax at source, remit TDS, file TDS return, issue TDS certificate. Okay, Rate of TDS. Average rate of income tax computed on the basis of the rates in force. Okay. Time of deduction at the time of payment. And see the next section 192A. This section says about premature withdrawal from EPF, Employer Provident Fund, or PF, Recognized Provident Fund. Premature withdrawal from EPF. In this case, threshold limit 50,000. Okay. In this case, payer, trustees of EPS or any authorized person. Trustees of EPS or any authorized person. Okay. Payee individual. Okay. And the rates of TDS 10%. In case of failure to furnish PAN, TDS at the rate of maximum marginal rate. Okay. And the time of deduction at the time of payment. Okay. And see, okay, 192 section salary. 192A, premature withdrawal from employees provident fund. Okay. And see the next section 193. Interest on securities. In this case, threshold limit 8% savings taxable bonds 2003 10,000, and interest on debentures issued by a company in which the public or substantially interest paid or credited to resident individual or HUF, 5,000. Okay. And here employer, any person, employee, any resident. Okay. And the rate of TDS 10%. And the time of deduction at the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee and at the time of payment, whichever is lower. At the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. And see the next section 194A, interest other than interest on securities. In this case, threshold limit 40,000 in a financial year in case of interest paid by banking company, cooperative society engaged in banking business, and deposits with post office. In all these cases, if payee is resident senior citizen, tax deduction limit is 50,000. More than 50,000. And 5,000 in a financial year in other cases. Okay. In this case, employer, that means payer, any person other than individual or HUF, not liable to tax audit under section 44AB in the immediately preceding financial year. Okay. And in this case, payee, any resident. Okay. Rate of TDS 10%. Okay. And the time limit at the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay. Same as section 193. Okay. And see the next section 194B. In this case, payment winnings from lottery, crossword puzzle or card game or other games of any sort. Okay. Remember this section 194B as a bad games. In this case, threshold limit payment of an amount exceeding 10,000. Okay. And the payer, the person responsible for paying income by way of such winnings. Okay, and the payee any person. Okay, and the rate of TDS 30 percentage. Okay, and the time at the time of payment. Okay, and see the next section 194 BB. In this case, payment winning from horse race. And remember this section, the person who are participating in horse race, that means bad boys. Only I am saying these bad games are bad boys only for remembering. Okay. In this case, threshold limit, payment of an amount exceeding 10,000. Okay. And employer, bookmaker or person holding license for horse racing, wagering or betting in any race course. Okay. Employ any person. And the rate of TDS 30 percentage. Okay. And the next time at the time of payment. Okay. And see the next section 194C, payments to contractors. Remember it, C, contractors. Okay. In this case, threshold limit, single sum credited or paid exceeding 30,000. Single sum, an aggregate sum credited or paid during the financial year exceeding 1 lakh aggregate. Okay. In this case, employer, central or state government or local authority or central state provisional corporation, company, firm, trust, cooperative society, individuals, HUF liable to tax audit in the immediately preceding financial year. Okay. And see here in threshold limit, individual or HUF need not deduct tax where sum is credited or paid exclusively for personal purposes. Okay. And the payee, any resident contractor for carrying out any work including supply of labor. Okay. And the next rate, 1% of sum paid or credited if the payee is an individual or HUF. Okay. And the next 2% of sum paid or credited if the payee is another person, another cases. Okay. Next, time, at the time of credit of such sum to the account of the contractor or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. And see the next section 194D, insurance commission. Remember this section, death, those cases insurance commission will receive. No. Okay. Payment, insurance commission. And the next one, threshold limit, threshold limit 15,000, greater than 15,000 in a financial year. Okay. And the payer any person, payee resident, any resident. And the TDS, that means rate of TDS 1%. And 5% of the any 5% of the amount, 5% of the amount of income comprised with effect of 1919. Okay. And the next, time of deduction at the time of payment. And see the next 194 DA, any sum under a life insurance policy. This is also insurance case. Okay. Threshold limit greater than or equals to 1 lakh aggregate amount of payment to a payee in a financial year. Okay. Payer any person, payee any resident. And the next, rate of TDS 1%. And the 5% of the amount of income comprised with effect 1919. Friends, in this case 194D only 5 percentage rate of TDS, only 5 percentage. Okay, sorry. And the time of deduction at the time of payment. Okay, and see the next section 194E. In this case, payment to non-resident sportsmen or sports association of income referred to section 115 BBA. Okay, and in this case threshold limit, no limit, no limit. Okay, and payer any person, pay non-resident sportsmen including athlete or non-citizen entertainer or non-resident sports associations. Okay, and the next rate of TDS 20 percentage. Okay, and the time of deduction at the time of credit of such income up to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, and see the next section 194 EE, payments of deposit under National Savings Scheme. In this case, threshold limit greater than or equals to 2500 in a financial year. Okay, payer any person, payee individual or HUF, and the rate of TDS 10 percentage, and time of deduction at the time of payment. Okay, and see the next section 194G, any income by way of price or commission or remuneration on sale of lottery tickets. And see in this case, remember E as entertainment, sports entertainment. Okay, remember it E for games, entertainment. Okay, and this is remember games, any income by way of prize or commission or remuneration on sale of lottery tickets. Okay, in this case threshold limit amount exceeding 50,000, 15,000, exceeding 15,000. Okay, and here payer any person, payee any person. Okay, and rate 5 percentage, time at the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, and see the next section 194H, 194H, commission or brokerage, threshold limit 15,000 in a financial year. Payer any person other than individual or HUF not liable to tax audit under section 44AB in the immediately preceding financial year. Okay, and employ any resident. Okay, and the rate 5 percentage, and the time at the time of such amount credited to the account of payee or payment, time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, 194I, rent, payment rent. In this case, threshold limit 2,40,000 in a financial year. Okay, and the payer any person other than individual or HUF not liable to tax audit under section 44AB in the immediately preceding financial year. Okay, and employ any resident. Okay, and the rate for plant and machinery or equipment, 2 percentage, for land and building, furniture or fixtures 10 percentage. Okay, and the next time of deduction at the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, and see then 194IA, payment on transfer of certain immovable property other than agriculture land. In this case, threshold limit greater than or equals to 50 lakhs consideration for transfer. Okay, and in this case, payer any person being a transferee, pay him a resident transfer order, and the rate 1%. Time at the time of credit of such sum to the account of the transferor at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, remember immovable property. Okay, and see the 194 IB, payment of rent by certain individual or HUF. Threshold limit greater than or equals to 50,000 for a month or part of the month. Okay, payer any person other than an individual or HUF not liable to tax audit under section 44AB in the preceding financial year. Okay, in the immediately preceding financial year, and the pay any resident, rate 5%. Okay, time at the time of credit of rent for the last month of the previous year or the last month of the tenancy if the property is vacated during the year, as the case may be, to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, 194 IC, payment under specified agreement under section 45(5)(a). Threshold limit, no limit. Okay, payer any person, payee any resident, and the rate 10%. The time at the time of credit of such income to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, and see the next section 194J, fees for professional or technical services or royalty or non-compete fees or director's remuneration. Threshold limit greater than 30,000 in a financial year for each category of income. However, this limit does not apply in case of payment made to director of a company. Okay, and the payer any person other than an HUF or individual not liable to tax audit under section 44AB in the immediately preceding financial year, and the payer any resident, rate 10%. Okay, and the next time at the time of credit of such a sum to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. Okay, and see the next section 194 LA, compensation on acquisition of certain immovable property. Okay, and here threshold limit greater than 2,50,000 in a financial year. Okay, and the payer any person, payee any resident, rate 10%, and the time at the time of payment. 194M, with effect 1st September 2019, payments to contractors or commission or brokerage or fee for professional services. In this case, limit, threshold limit greater than 50 lakhs in a financial year. And here, payer individual or HUF other than those who are required to deduct tax at source under section 194C or 194H or 194. Pay him any resident. Okay, and the next rate 5%. Okay, and the next time at the time of credit of such a sum to the account of the payee or at the time of payment, whichever is earlier. 194N, cash withdrawal limit greater than 1 crore, and the payer a banking company or any bank or a banking institution, a cooperative society, engaged in carrying on business of banking or a post office. Okay, and pay any person. Okay, rate 2% of sum exceeding 1 crore. Exceeding 1 crore. Okay, and the next time at the time of payment of such sum. Okay, and see the section 195A. In case other than referred to in subsection 1A of section 192, where under an agreement or arrangement the tax chargeable on any income referred to in the foregoing provisions of this chapter is to be borne by the person by whom the income is payable, then for the purpose of deduction of tax under those provisions, such income shall be increased to such amount as would, after deduction of tax thereon at the rate in force for the financial year in which such income is payable, be equal to the net amount payable under the agreement or arrangement. Okay, and see the section 196. Notwithstanding anything contained in the foregoing provisions of this chapter, no deduction of tax shall be made by any person from any sum payable to government, Reserve Bank of India or cooperation establishment by or under Central Act which is under any law for the time being in force, exempt from income tax on its income or mutual fund specified under clause 23D of section 10. Okay, and see the next section 197, certificate for reduction at lower rate. As per section 192, 193, 194, 194A, 194C, 194D, 194G, 194H, 194I, 194J, 194K, 194LA, 194LBB, 194 LBC, 195. Subject to rules made under subsection 2A, where in the case of any income of any person or sum payable to any person, income tax is required to be deducted at the time of credit or as the case may be at the time of payment at the rates in force under the provisions. The assessing officer is satisfied that total income of the recipient justifies the deduction of income tax at lower rates or no deduction of income tax. Okay, as the case may be, assessing officer shall on application made by the assessee in his behalf give him such certificate as may be appropriate. Okay, and see, where any such certificate is given, the person responsible for paying the income shall, until such a certificate is cancelled by the assessing officer, deduct income tax at the rates specified in such a certificate or deduct no tax as the case may be. The board may, having regard to the convenience of the assessee and the interest of revenue by notification in the official gazette, make rules specifying the cases in which and circumstances under which any application may be made for the grant of a certificate under subsection 1 and the conditions subject to which such certificate may be granted and providing for all other matters connected therewith. And see the next section 197A, circumstances. No deduction to be made in certain circumstances. You see, notwithstanding anything contained in section 194 or section 194 EE. And see, No deduction of tax shall be made under any of the said section in case of individual who is resident in India. Okay. If such individual furnishes to the person responsible for paying any income of the nature referred to section 194 or as the may be section 194 EE, a declaration. Okay. In writing in duplicate in the prescribed form and verified in the prescribed manner to the effect that the tax on his estimated total income. Okay. The total income of the previous year in which such income is to be included in computing his total income will be zero, nil. Okay, total income. And see, notwithstanding section 192, 193, 194, 194A or 194D, 194DA or section 194I or section 194K, no deduction of tax shall be made under any of the said section in the case of person not being a company or a firm. Okay. If such a person furnishes to the person responsible for paying any income of the nature referred to section 192A or 193 or 194A or 194D, 194DA or 194I, 194K as the case may be. 192A, 193. Okay. And see, the provision of the section shall not apply where the amount of any income of the nature referred to in subsection 1 or subsection 1A. Okay. As the case may be, the aggregate the amounts of such income credited or paid or likely to be credited or paid during the previous year in which such income is to be included exceeds the maximum amount which is not chargeable to income tax. And see the section 19 and see the next section 197A 1D. Notwithstanding anything contained in this section, no deduction of tax shall be made by the affords banking unit from the interest paid on deposit made on or after 1st day of April 2005 by a non-resident or a person not ordinary resident in India, or an borrowing or an after 1st day of April 2000 from non-resident or a person not ordinary resident in India. And see, 1A. Notwithstanding anything contained in this chapter, no deduction of tax shall be made from any payment to any person or on behalf of the new pension scheme, trust referred to in class 444 of section 10. And see, F. Notwithstanding anything contained in this chapter, no deduction of tax shall be made from such a specified payment to such institution, association or body or class of institutions notified institution, association or body or class of institutions, associations or bodies as may be notified by the central government in the official gazette in this behalf. Okay. The person responsible for paying any income of the nature referred to in this section 1 or subsection 1A or subsection 1C shall deliver or cause to be delivered to the principal chief commissioner or chief commissioner or principal commissioner or commissioner one copy of the declaration referred to in subsection 1 or subsection 1A or subsection 1C. 1A or 1C on behalf of 7th day of the month next of following the month in which declaration is furnished to him. Okay friends, from section 198 to 206 AA miscellaneous provisions I will make another video part 2. Okay friends, I hope this chapter is clear for you. Do well, prepare well. Bye bye. All the best.